Well, welcome to this morning's webinar in our series about financial centres of the world. We have today a focus on Luxembourg, a financial centre and a place that we at CEN have been tracking and know well. I was just talking to our main guest today to say that I was last in Luxembourg almost 2 years ago, where Luxembourg Finance hosted the launch of the Global Green Finance Index, and look forward to be able to return to Luxembourg at some point in the future. I'd just like to briefly thank our sponsors for this event and for all our events. We're very lucky in having a group of sponsors who enable the FS Club to run a series of events ranging widely across the themes of finance and technology. We are really grateful for you to give us the freedom to be able to range that far and wide and to make this series of webinars possible. Our agenda this morning, my job is really to get out of the way very quickly and leave space for Philipp von Restorff, Deputy CEO of Luxembourg Finance, who's going to give a presentation on Luxembourg and its current position and developments. I'll then add a few thoughts from an external perspective about Luxembourg, and then we'll run into the question and answer session. For those of you who have not used the GoToWebinar system before, the way to ask a question is to go to the dashboard, which you see on your screen. You'll find a little question box in grey, which you can open up, type in a question, submit it, and we'll deal with those at the end of the session. But you can put a question at any point during the presentation, so please, anything that strikes you, put it into the question box and keep them flowing during the presentation. We'll have about 45 minutes for the entire session, and we're looking forward for a lively conversation as well as hearing from Philipp. Very briefly, this is us, the panel for today, and I'm now going to get out of the way. First of all, to launch a poll which Philipp has posed for us, just asking for this audience what we think will dominate our business in 2021. COVID-19, digitalization, sustainable finance post-Brexit. You may have other priorities, but we're asking you this morning to just focus on choosing one of those. And so I'm going to launch the poll now. And we can see that people are putting their answers in. We have about 70% already have answered. Okay, so I'm just going to share the results now. So actually quite balanced. COVID-19 certainly comes out as the top, but only just over digitalization and sustainable finance, and the lowest answer being 13% for post-Brexit. But roughly a third of people saying COVID-19 will continue to dominate business during 2021, digitalization 29%, and sustainable finance at 25%. So an interesting focus, and one which I'm sure you'll want to take into account, Philipp, in taking forward the discussion this morning. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for having invited me and giving me the opportunity to present to you the Luxembourg International Financial Center. Allow me to tell you a little bit about Luxembourg and the financial center in more general terms, and that will help you later on to put everything into the current context. So Luxembourg stands for openness, sustainability, and stability. Openness to innovation, openness to people, openness to business. We are a very politically stable country with a very low public debt and doing quite well economically. We have been consistently AAA rated by the 3 major rating agencies in the recent years. And Luxembourg has some, let's say, exceptional characteristics. First, we have 3 official languages. We have a population that is almost half composed by foreigners. And Luxembourg acts as not only the engine for its national economy, but also for the economy of the greater regions, meaning of parts of our three surrounding country neighbors, which are France, Belgium, and Germany. And which is an interesting fact too, is that 40% of our workforce in Luxembourg actually come out of these regions and are commuting every day to Luxembourg. Important to remind is also that Luxembourg is a founding member of the European Union, of the Schengen area, and is actually considering the EU common market as its home market. And this is, I think, important to remind, because often questions arise how a so small country can have an international financial center. Well, it derives from the fact that we consider the common market, the European common market, as our home market. And so Luxembourg is one of the three capitals of Europe, together with Strasbourg and Brussels. We are home to the European Court of Justice, to the European Investment Bank, the European Investment Fund, and among others, also the European Stability Mechanism. I think the fact that Luxembourg is very strongly focused on sustainability is reflected by the government action, who actually has put sustainability in the core of its governmental program. Could you flip on the next slide, please, Mike? Thank you very much. So these characteristics are, at least in part, an explanation how Luxembourg has achieved to become a leading international financial center. Actually, it has managed over time to knit together an ecosystem of various service providers, including investment services, fintech, wealth planning, real estate management, philanthropy, investment management companies, and international listing and post-trade services. So we really managed to have set up an infrastructure and a regulatory expertise needed for the success of international finance activities. Characteristic of Luxembourg is also that we have always tried to be innovative, and the UCITS directive, the implementation of the UCITS directive as first country in '88 is maybe a good example of that, and that has given us also the opportunity to move quite quickly with the implementation of the alternative investment directive 20 years later. So we have a long track record of innovations. The most recent in sustainable finance would be the implementation of a law on green covered bonds, and last summer the setup of a sustainability bond framework. So I believe that our cluster of specialized services is clearly the #1 attraction for financial institution seeking to set up shop in the European Union. So over time, and especially since the financial crisis, we have managed to grow into a regulatory, risk management, and compliance competence center. And you can see a lot of teams in Luxembourg which serve as the group's regulatory nerve center and somehow the control center. What we have observed also lately is a moving towards bringing front office functions to Luxembourg, as well as key decision-making roles, which is something which we could see over the last 5 years. Now, coming to the past year, and I think this is the same to every one of us, it was a year that has been unlike any other in recent history. So from a financial center point of view, what we have observed that we have been able within a matter of days to move to remote working. That is the first fact. The second fact is that the financial center has proved to be very resilient, which is important because especially in these times now, we have to make sure that capital can flow freely from and to investors anywhere. 2020 was also about Brexit. But I have to say, when saying that 2020 has been also about Brexit, that most of the financial firms have already been prepared for the March deadline last year, at least from an operational perspective. We are very happy that the Commission and the UK have managed to coin out a deal, which is essentially for us. It barely covered financial services, but the mere fact that we have a deal opens up some perspectives, we believe, in the future. So in terms of the success of the financial center, what could be said is that in 2020, we had been happy to welcome 82 entities being licensed to operate out of Luxembourg. The next slide, please. So Luxembourg is traditionally a very strong banking center, which is known for the cross-border activities in private and corporate banking, fund administration and custody, and treasury services. So banks in Luxembourg permits non-EU banking groups to be a key gateway to the European Union. So we have a long-standing expertise right from the 19th century to today in corporate banking, in the provision of international loans, might it be bilateral or syndicated, and treasury services. We are also, over the last 30 years, we have managed to develop a one-stop shop solution for private banking and global wealth management. And this is where we have been developing expertise for especially for entrepreneurs and investors with cross-border needs. In 2020, and despite the general trend in the banking industry, the consolidation trends, we have managed to attract 5 banks to Luxembourg, some of them supporting EU clients post-Brexit in areas like wealth management, fund custody, or corporate and capital markets. Mike, if you could show us the next slides. Traditionally, Luxembourg has always been very strong when it comes to the insurance business, and especially again towards investors and private person who have faced challenges and are highly mobile. We have a know-how in providing insurance products to clients across the EU. And very important is that there are 2 reasons, which is the regulatory environment and the quality of supervision, which are really the 2 key reasons why international insurance companies continue to choose Luxembourg as their EU hub. So in the insurance business, we have mainly 3 pillars. The first one being the life insurance business, which provides tools available for asset management and succession planning, which provides clients with international portability and very wide flexibility of investment. Luxembourg is also a major center for captive reinsurance. Today, we have 216 captive reinsurance companies on behalf of firms originating from more than 40 countries. So that makes us the largest captive reinsurance center in the European Union with a regional market share of around 24%. We have in the recent years also been witnessing leading international non-life insurance companies having set up their EU headquarters in Luxembourg. What have we been seeing in 2020 was that insurance premiums have been struggling due to COVID-19. So following a strong growth observed in the years before, also largely due to Brexit relocations, the insurance industry remained quite stable in terms of firm numbers who are located in Luxembourg, but we have seen that COVID-19 has and continues to impact the insurance sector in Luxembourg. If you could flip to the next chart, please, Mike. Luxembourg is probably most known for being the home of the global fund industry. As mentioned earlier on, we had the opportunity in the 80s to have this first mover advantage by implementing the UCITS directive and becoming then a major center of cross-border distribution of investment funds. And we have been able to provide European retail and institutional clients to access international markets. Today, Luxembourg is handling about 62% of cross-border investment funds worldwide from over 70 countries. Top 100 asset managers worldwide, 98 of them have funds domiciled in Luxembourg. As I mentioned earlier too, we have been very rapid in implementing the Alternative Investment Fund Managers Directive, which has helped us once again to develop and to position us as a well-regulated hub for the global alternative fund industry. So we are really able to tailor solutions for clients and professionals alike by combining characteristics from various jurisdictions. Notably, thanks to the fact that we have setting up a limited partnership regime, which fits the needs from clients, both common law and civil law based jurisdictions. So we have become over the last years a prime location for private equity, venture capital, hedge funds, and real estate funds, giving the rise of a number of structures designed to facilitate private equity and real estate's acquisition with cross-border components. Today, we manage around 700 billion euros in regulated alternative funds. So asset under management in Luxembourg private equity funds increased around 20% in 2019 and even 50% in 2020. 19 out of the 20 global private equity houses have operations in Luxembourg. Which brings me then to the next slide of the capital markets. As you all know, capital markets play a key role in supporting economic growth by allocating capital, thereby creating jobs that helps to build infrastructures and drive innovation. Luxembourg's capital market infrastructure and unique international expertise make it a perfect place for companies of all sizes to finance their European or global activities. Luxembourg over the last 10 years has grown to become an international leader in debt capital, a key hub for securitization and structured finance vehicle, as well as an acknowledged platform for hosting landmarks international IPOs. Sticking out is the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, who is the global leader in debt securities listing, the #1 listing outside Asia for dim sum bonds, the first stock exchange in Europe to have listed a sukuk, and today most known for being the first to have implemented a leading platform dedicated exclusively to sustainable finance investment vehicles. One has also to mention in the area of capital markets that thanks to the wealth of post-trading services providers, Luxembourg has become a global center of all aspects of collateral management, including clearing, settlement, custody, and asset servicing. So today, the International Central Securities Depositories manage 7 trillion euros asset under management. So we are also, to the respect to capital markets, a leading center for securitization and structured investment vehicles. And today, Luxembourg is home to 1,200 securitization vehicles. Mike, would you be so kind to go to the next slide where I will speak a little bit of financing a sustainable future. So as you might know, Europe has decided to take the leadership in terms of sustainability, in terms of sustainable finance. And most recently, in 2019, the European Commission presented the European Green Deal and the Agenda 2050, which complements the UN Agenda 2030. Luxembourg has a long tradition in terms of sustainable finance. We have been starting within the microfinance industry in the 90s by setting up microfinance investment vehicles, and we are now a leader in this respect. And we have been moving forward to become a leader within responsible investment funds. We have 61% of market share in global asset under management in microfinance investment vehicles and 45% of asset under management in European environment strategy funds. In 2020, we have really seen that sustainable finance moves at the center stage, both in response to COVID-19 pandemic, but also for growing sustainability concern. What we have witnessed also in 2020, that in the ESG, we have seen the social aspects, taking a lot of importance. So we have notably seen, especially on the Luxembourg Green Exchange, social and sustainable bond issuance rising. We have been also very happy that we have been the listing location for the EU first social bond issued under the European Union SURE program. When we take a look at the Luxembourg Green Exchange, we have been very happy that the Luxembourg Green Exchange has been welcoming 407 new sustainable securities, totaling more than 186 billion euros. This is a 134% increase in terms of total value compared to 2019. The number of securities added on LGX grew by more than 50% compared to the year before. So the Luxembourg Green Exchange now displays over 900 sustainable securities worth over 388 billion euros, which is quite an achievement. What we have been witnessing also, that there has been an increased demand for labeling sustainable finance products. Our national Luxembourg Financial Labelling Agency, LuxFLAG, has been labeling investment products by a growth rate from 76% in 2020, going as high as 144% for ESG labeled funds. So we now have labeled 322 investment products across 10 jurisdictions, representing 135 billion euros in assets under management by promoters from over 17 countries, which again reflects our international openness. In terms of fintech, on the next slide, Mike, if you would be so kind, thank you. Luxembourg started about 10 years ago to put the transition of the financial center at the core of its activities. The strategy Luxembourg put in place in terms of financial technology has never been to become a fully fledged fintech center as it might be London or Singapore. The aim was to help the incumbent financial institution to manage the transition towards financial technology solutions. So what has been the aim is to give the tools to the industry to remain industry leaders. What the government has done is to set up the Luxembourg House of Financial Technology, which serves as a national platform and interface for global fintech hubs. And it brings together financial institutions, fintech innovators, research, and academia. What we could witness in the last years is that due to Luxembourg becoming a hub in regulatory and risk management, that RegTech has really been boosted by this phenomenon. What we have been seeing also is that Luxembourg has managed to become a regional leader in terms of payments. We have been able to attract key European payment and e-money leaders, and we are happy to say that leading international players are interested in setting up shop in Luxembourg and use Luxembourg as their headquarters for European Union business. So this role has been confirmed with the relocations of a number of payment firms in the wake of Brexit, among others giants like Alipay and trendsetters like Airbnb. Luxembourg has also managed to establish itself as a home to one of the largest open banking platforms in Europe, following the implementation of PSD2. So Luxembourg's financial center, and specifically its fund industry, increasingly responds to the regulatory compliance and operational needs of cross-border financial services. We are becoming really a regional RegTech hub. And that brings me to the next slide. Key to all this development in terms of fintech, in terms of sustainable finance, in terms of the industry undergoing a paradigm shift, what is key is the workforce we have. And today we have about roughly 51,000 people working in the financial center. And as you all know, talent attraction has become key for the success of the development of every financial center. And there, Luxembourg is not an exception. We work very hard to attract, retain, and develop the talents in order for us to achieve this important transition. That brings me to my last slide, which is our ambition for 2025. We want to continue to be an international financial center at the heart of the European Union, financing a stronger climate neutral circular economy. We want to do this in concert with other international financial centers. We want to continue to strive leading in sustainability. We want to continue to push innovation by also respecting the principles and the standard sets by the international bodies and the European Union in terms of responsible governance. We are committed to tax transparency and maintaining a sound legal framework. And this ends my short presentation of the Luxembourg Financial Center. And Mike, back to you.
Well, Philip, thank you very much indeed. We've already got some questions coming in, but do keep them coming. I just wanted to give a kind of external view about Luxembourg. As you know, we at ZN look at financial centers through the Global Financial Centers Index, the Global Green Finance Index, and the new Smart Centers Index. And looking at Luxembourg and the Global Financial Centers Index, two things really jump out. First of all, the rapid improvement in Luxembourg's rank in recent editions of the GFCI, driven by people rating Luxembourg highly in recent editions, and really, I think, demonstrating the impact which Luxembourg has made. Secondly, looking at the analysis we do by industry subsector, where we take just the people from different sectors of finance who fill in the GFCI questionnaire and run the GFCI model for each of those sectors. And we see the very marked strength in investment management, insurance, and professional services, really backing up what Philipp has been talking about in terms of the focus of Luxembourg's business. Going on to green finance, there was a reason I was in Luxembourg 2 years ago launching the Global Green Finance Index. It is because of Luxembourg's leadership in sustainability. And for a small centre being ranked in the top 5 for both depth and quality in the Global Green Finance Index is very impressive, and again reflects the strategic focus on green finance in recent years. It's a crowded market at the top of the Global Green Finance Index, but it's dominated by Europe, and Luxembourg is very strongly in the mix there. And then some thoughts on key strengths, and this is my analysis. I hadn't seen Philipp's slides before I did my slide, but there's a lot of similarity in the way that we view Luxembourg and the way that Luxembourg for Finance would describe itself. First of all, there has been post-Brexit growth in asset management and insurance. That is simply a positioning issue in terms of access to EU markets, we think, but it's been important for Luxembourg. The long-term stability that Philipp mentioned, we think, is a key factor, along with the development of green finance. And that idea of being a central location in Europe and a multilingual business centre certainly has added to Luxembourg's strength over the years. And finally, it's a desirable place to live and work. We were talking to someone recently about Luxembourg. He said, well, if you come to Luxembourg, why would you ever leave? And certainly it seems that for this and many other financial centres, being a really good place to live and work and bring up a family and all the other things that go with that is seen as an important part of attracting a very highly skilled workforce. So just some thoughts from ourselves, an external perspective, before we move on to the question session. I say we have some questions in already, but please do keep them coming. One person has asked, will you have access to the presentation slides after the event? There's a link actually at the top of the chat for this event with them in, but we'll be emailing you all after the event, which will include a link to where you can grab the slides and indeed a recording of the session for those of you who want to go and review the highlights and live it all over again. So moving into questions, first of all, we have a question, first of all, from Bob McDowell, who's based in Guernsey. And just noting that Luxembourg is one of several low tax jurisdictions in the EU. And just wondering what may happen as the EU seeks to blacklist some UK Crown dependencies. Is there an apprehension in Luxembourg the UK may take measures against low tax financial centres in the EU if we can't get an agreement on financial services between the UK and the EU? In other words, is this Brexit coming home to roost in terms of the UK taking a very separate position?
Good question. We don't believe so. We as Luxembourgers always had good relationship with the City of London. We have been seeing during the Brexit negotiation that the City of London wanted to have close relationship with other international financial center. I'm quite confident that we will continue to work along a partnership, and I don't see us going into that direction.
Okay, kind of a follow-up question from Clifford Brown. He said, from an ESG perspective, what's the relationship, or how do you reconcile Luxembourg's reputation as being a kind of low tax avoidance kind of jurisdiction with setting a more sustainable financial future? Do those things go together in terms of ESG?
Well, this is an interesting question, because that gives me a little bit the opportunity. So Luxembourg doesn't position itself as low tax domicile. What Luxembourg positions itself and where it has actually the most of success in is the expertise in cross-border financial services, and the fact that people are always coming back to this low tax image, which is, by the way, not reflecting what's happening on the ground. Then this is because images tend to last. So we have been in the last years, and especially since the government is in place since 2013, set ourselves on a path of transparency. And so if low taxation can be achieved, that is not because we have implemented it in our framework. It is more about international and European law. And there we collaborate with the European Union, our partners in the European Union, on OECD level. And we have been quite supportive of all the changes that have implemented after the discussions, and we have never been blocking any kind of change when it comes to European or international law in terms of taxation. So we're very clearly open to discuss everything and to be supportive of international and European changes when it comes to the taxation framework. So it's really, for in our eyes, a little bit a simplistic view that some people have of Luxembourg.
Thank you very much for that.
And I think to add on this, it is and this is why I said in the beginning, it is often misunderstood how a small country can become an international financial center. And it's important to mention that because we are part of the European Union and we want to really make the capital market union function, is by considering the European common market as our home market. So we are very much in line, in my eyes, when it comes to ESG.
And I think that ties into another question we've had, which is the question of tax harmonization within the EU, and whether you see that as a threat to your financial services standing. I guess from your comment just now, you see that absolutely as central to your financial services standing, and tax harmonization not being a threat at all. But what's your view on that?
Well, that doesn't. We as I said, we are open to discuss anything, and we have been supportive of anything that has been decided within our partners at European Union level or the OECD level. So I don't see us going forward in this direction changing in the near future.
Thank you very much. An interesting question from Sevilla Din. What is Luxembourg's approach to gender lens investing? The whole idea of investing that also benefits the place of women in society. Has that made an impact yet, or are there any plans or programs that are in place to look at gender lens investing?
So Luxembourg has committed itself to two things. One is to COP21, and the second one is to the SDGs, so the 2030 UN agenda, which clearly states that equal treatment is a goal to be achieved by 2030, and naturally the issue of gender equality is taken quite seriously, and we go into this direction with commitment.
Thank you very much. Bob McDowell again is just asking, who do you view in Luxembourg as your main competitors, both within the EU and outside? Where do you position yourself in terms of competition between financial centres?
That's a good question. It's hard to reply to, because it depends of what we are talking about. When we are talking about asset management, a competitor would of course be Ireland, one of the ones to mention, and And then the second part of the answer would be that in terms of sustainable finance, for instance, we don't see us compete. We mostly see us trying to help each other in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and the goals set by the European Green Deal. As I said in the statement also, we are always looking for a complementarity to other financial centers, which is really the ambition we have.
Thank you very much. And this whole question, particularly in sustainable finance, of competition versus collaboration, is one which is very live, and there's a lot more, I think, collaboration from those who are involved in green finance than perhaps there has been traditionally in traditional finance. But we watch this space with real interest as to how people work together. Quite a specific question. Luxembourg SV is saying Errol Risa is very attractive for receivables linked financing, but the question, can it be used for real estate development, and what has been the major sectors of real estate that Luxembourg SV enables? I have to say that we'll put Philip in touch with all those who've asked questions. So if there's some questions which are more detailed than can be answered here, then very happy to pass on contact details. But any thoughts on real estate through Luxembourg SV?
Luxembourg SV has been used for every kind of different real estate projects. So that is a question where you really have to get in touch with us, and we link you to a specialist to go into the details, which is the basis of your question, I guess.
Thank you. We're starting to get to the end of the session, but if you've got last questions, please do keep them going. We have a question from Leva Loet, who asks, what are the next steps that LFS is planning to increase Luxembourg's attractiveness even further? So what are the plans to make you even more attractive as a financial center?
Well, most surely what we are focusing the most on is the Luxembourg Sustainable Finance Strategy we have been just launching last week. This is for us and for all the financial institution in Luxembourg probably the fastest train so far we have on track. This is where probably most of the future, the near future changes will come. So we have to be quick. We have to make sure to raise awareness among the industry. We have to be sure to make sure that everyone is ready, not only in the financial industry but in the economy in general, to remain attractive and to prove actually what we want to do in terms of sustainability and sustainable finance. So I believe that to remain attractive, we really have to walk the talk, and this is the most urgent issue we have to tackle so far.
Thank you. Rishan Lee has asked a question about the UK-EU regulatory relationships in terms of equivalence. Obviously, the Governor of the Bank of England made a speech a couple of days ago noting that the EU hadn't granted UK regulatory equivalence. And do you think there's something there which needs action at individual country level, or is there something which is going to just take its time to work through?
We would have welcomed if there would have been more equivalences, but this is a decision that has to be made by the European Commission, which we fully support as a real European member state. We have to figure out in which areas we need equivalences, but then again, it's not a matter of negotiation. It's something which will be attributed by the European Commission, and I think for the time being, the European Commission is waiting to see how, on a regulatory basis, where the UK is moving to. If they are moving away from the regulatory standards from the EU or not. And I think for the time being, the European Commission is observing the trend and what's happening in the UK more closely before taking any kind of decision in this sense.
Okay. We're coming to the end, but someone's asked, what are the new opportunities the Luxembourg government has launched for new non-EU nationals who would like to set up a startup in Luxembourg?
Well, there are a lot of different things we have done. There was a new law that has been implemented in last year, and we will. I can provide. I have not the detail with me now for non-EU residents what the changes are, but I can for sure be able to respond if the person who has asked the questions, if he contacts me directly, I can put him in touch with the adequate persons.
That's super, and as I say, we will give you details, Philip, of who asked questions after the event. Indeed, Ian Hillier-Brook is saying he's got a fairly detailed and lengthy question. It's probably better dealt with in direct contact, so we'll put the two of you in touch and make sure that conversation can take place. So that's great. We've reached the end of our time, and thank you very much both to the audience for a very engaged and lively discussion, and for your attending today. And also, Tommy Leonard, one of our participants, has just said thank you to Philip for the very insightful and interesting presentation. People, I think, are very grateful for the time you've taken to be with us today. I just want to mention again our sponsors. Again, thank you to them for allowing us to run these series of webinars. We have a number coming up in the coming days. Automated horizon scanning on Thursday, the post-COVID business model and policy choices for Europe. In the chat, you'll have noticed that my colleague Morgan has put a note to say that Philip is holding a webinar on the 23rd of February on life after Brexit and for Luxembourg perspective. Next Monday, though, we have a webinar looking at space with a view both from Europe and China about the future of space and technology linked to finance. So plenty for you to be getting your teeth into, and we look forward to seeing you at forthcoming events. Just remains for me to offer my thanks to you as the audience, definitely to Philip. We have a number of people in the questions just passing on their thanks to Philip for his presentation this morning. Normally at such an event, of course, you would have a large round of applause. All I can offer you is a very small one.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you indeed. Thank you indeed, Philip. Thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you at future events. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Mike. Stay safe. Bye-bye.